Bill, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Steve.
Before we begin, since I'm a wannabe author and tried to sell books, so plug your book.
Thank you.
Fascinating.
Without reservations.
It's an excellent one. And before getting into the operations of Marriott today, just want to hit on people. Every CEO talks about the importance of people. And but you've practiced it in a way that certainly is revolutionary for hotel-motel industry. So what do you do that's different?
My dad started it all back in the 30s when we had a root beer stand and then a restaurant. And one day the cook didn't show up, and he decided he'd better get a program going so he could retain his people and keep them happy. And he put a doctor on the payroll to do their health care, and a few years later he put a surgeon on the payroll to do their health care. But it's always been the major belief of our company: take good care of your people, they'll take good care of the customer, and the customer will come back. And we celebrate them, we train them, we teach them, we provide opportunity for them. 50% of our general managers have come out of the hourly ranks, and we continue to promote. We're at almost 4,000 hotels around the world, and the majority of our senior people in the company and in the hotels themselves have had a lot of opportunity to work with people and worked very hard to develop a relationship with our people, because we know they make the difference, particularly in the hospitality business. We're not like an assembly line in a factory. People are out there meeting the guests, checking them in, checking them out, waiting on them in the restaurants, cleaning their rooms, so they have millions of interactions every day with our guests.
But you just don't tell your people do a good job. You're noted for very meticulous ways of how things should be done, almost like an airline pilot. No matter how experienced, they have a checklist.
We have a checklist.
And describe a little bit of that.
Well, we have 66 ways to make up a room, steps that they have to follow when they make up a guest room. And we have detailed procedures for checking guests in and checking guests out. But at the same time, we want our people to know that they've got latitude. And in Ritz-Carlton, for instance, there's a certain amount of money that they're allowed to spend to satisfy a guest if they have a complaint, without having to go to the general manager or up to my office or someplace else to get it approved. And so we've put a lot of effort on teaching our people how to respond and take care of the customer and take care of the complaints.
So a typical person that comes to work, how many days do they go into training?
Well, we train in Ritz-Carlton, for instance, 90 days before they are assigned to the job. Probably around 30 days in most of the Marriott hotels. That they have a coworker that's assigned with them that teaches them and trains them and follows up with them. We want them to feel comfortable, because we know if they don't feel comfortable on the job, they leave. And so it's the first 30, 60 days are really key to making them feel embraced, making them feel that they're part of the company and an important part of the company, and that they can take care of the guests and give them the confidence they need to stick around and progress within the company.
Describe the awards you give to, a dozen people around the world each year?
It's called the Marriott Award of Excellence, and we get people from the Middle East, we get people from Asia, South America. In the United States, we have about 10 to 15 people every year that we recognize. Most of them are hourly workers, housekeepers, cooks, engineers, secretaries, people that are down the line that don't get a lot of recognition. We bring them to Washington for 4 or 5 days of celebration to get to tour the city. I have lunch with them, and we have a big dinner for them, and we celebrate them. There's about 400 or 500 executives in the room that are all clapping and cheering, and they come up and tell their story, and they get a big medal they can wear around their neck. And so the celebration part is really key.
That makes a difference.
It does.
Now, it hasn't been a straight line for Marriott. Started out as hot shops.
That's right.
Describe that, how you went from the food business to now just really the hotel business.
Well, we started out as a root beer stand, and then the weather got cold. We put on food because people stopped drinking ice cold root beer, and we called it a hot shop. And we've expanded that into airline catering and to a group of hot shop restaurants, Farrell's ice cream parlors, Big Boy coffee shops. And then we followed the conglomerate rule of Harold Janine back in the 70s and early 80s, when the analysts wanted to know, what new business are you going to be in this week? So we got into cruise ships, we got into theme parks, we got into airline airport security, we got into doing all kinds of different businesses, and then we finally figured out, let's make money in the hotel business and let's focus on that. So we've spun off everything except the lodging side of the business. We even got rid of our timeshare business because we felt that that was not as important to us as the lodging business.
Was it wrenching to let the hot shops go the way, go on the long trail?
Well, they sort of faded out by themselves because once McDonald's started selling 15-cent hamburgers and we were at 50 cents, and it took 2 minutes in McDonald's to get a 15-cent hamburger and 15 minutes in a hot shop to get a 45 or 50-cent hamburger, we sort of, we were defeated basically by the fast food operations.
Innovation, again, everyone talks about it. Did you learn at a young age, for example, how your father took a cold root beer mug and how you wash it without breaking it, in the hot water?
Oh yeah, we had to do that, have a special way of washing mugs, and we had to have standards for everything that we did. And that was the key to his success in the restaurant business. We had recipe cards. Everyone had to follow the recipe cards. And we were very careful to make sure that the food was prepared exactly the same way in every restaurant. We tried to do the same thing in the hotels. So I think the one thing that we're known best for in the hotel business is consistency. And the consistency comes from our standards.
You mentioned recipe cards. You got an early lesson in leadership with recipe cards in the Navy. Can you tell us about that?
Well, thank you for asking that question, because I was assigned to be the wardroom officer on an aircraft carrier, and I had a bunch of stewards who were doing the food preparation, all World War II veterans, because this was back in the early 50s, and I said, here are the recipe cards, follow them, and they gave me this glassy stare, and they said, we ain't following them, and I didn't know what to do, so I let them do their own thing, but I realized that I did not get buy-in from them. I did not go down and sit down with them and say, I think we can improve the quality of the food if you'll follow these recipe cards. I was an officer and they were enlisted men, so I said, here, follow the recipe cards. This is an order, and they totally ignored my order because they didn't have a chance to participate in the decisions that affected them.
So the key words are, what do you think?
The key words are, what do you think? The 4 most important words in business are, what do you think? And I didn't ask the stewards in the Navy, what do you think? I said, here, do this. And I found out it doesn't work very well. And I try and get enlisted people in the company in the senior levels when we have a meeting to go around the table and say, what do you think? And we were faced with a big decision, and I'd pretty much made up my mind, and everybody was on board, but one person in the back said he wasn't on board. And I said, you weren't? You're not on board? He'd tell me why, and he told me, and he was right. So he canceled the project. Wow. So I think it's really important to listen to your people. You learn a lot when you do. That's one of the reasons I visit hotels every year, over 200 a year, is to learn from our people what's going right, what's going wrong. I was in a hotel here in New York today, and they had the wrong guest chair in the room, and I said, get rid of them, let's go buy some more guest chairs. They said, well, nobody's told us that in the last 5 years, and I said, well, here I am, let's do it.
Well, talking about buy-in, relate the story of your experience with Dwight Eisenhower.
Well, he came down to our farm, our family farm. It was in December 1954, and I'd been in the Navy for 6 months. I was home from Supply Corps school, and my folks entertained Ike and Mamie, and they put some quail out for him to shoot. It was a really cold December day. It was about 20 degrees, the wind was blowing, and so everybody asked the president, do you want to go out and shoot quail? And he turned around and looked at me, and I was standing back in the corner hiding, and he said, what do you want to do, Bill? What do you think we should do? And I said, I don't think we should go out and shoot. It's too cold. And he said, good, I agree with you. And I thought to myself, that's how he got to be such a great general and handled the likes of Montgomery and Patton and some of these characters that he was dealing with. He got their buy-in, and then he did what he thought was right. But I learned an awful lot from that quick lesson.
You really led the company. Your father started it, and your mother would wash the nickels and get the root beer
off the nickels.
But really making going full bore into hospitality. What brought that about? You led the charge on that. You fundamentally changed the company.
Well, when I got out of the Navy, and they were looking for something for me to do, and they kept giving me little jobs and little assignments and things. And we opened this new hotel in Washington just after Eisenhower's inaugural, 1957. And it wasn't doing well in February and March because it was outside of the city and it was on the highway. But it was a great location, 365-room Marriott Motor Hotel. And my dad said, I don't know what to do with this hotel. I said, why don't you let me go run it? He said, well, you don't know anything about the hotel business. I said, well, neither does anybody else around here. So let's roll the dice. So we rolled the dice, and we got the first one profitable, then we built another one, and then we've just gone from there, one at a time, one step at a time.
Now, One of the challenges, first describe your size today. What, 660,000 rooms, 74 countries, almost 3,900 facilities. But describe that, and then the number of brand names you have out there.
Well, we have a lot of brands, Steve. We have almost 4,000 hotels now, and we'll be at 700,000 rooms by the end of 2014, and we expect to get our 4,000th hotel next year, which will probably be the new 1,000-room Marriott Marquis in Washington, D.C., across from the convention center. But we have a lot of brands. We have the Ritz-Carlton brand, which is our top luxury brand, but even ahead of that is Bulgari, which is more expensive even than Ritz-Carlton, but because it is so expensive, there's very few of them. But we have the Marriott Hotels brand. We have the Residence Inn brand for people who are looking for a long-term stay in a less-priced hotel. We have Courtyard. We'll have 1,000 of those next year. We started those back in the 80s. We were the first big hotel company to go down market and develop these simpler, easier to stay in and less priced hotels. Interesting story about that. We asked our customers what they wanted in a new hotel in the future. They said a better room at a lower price. And I said, well, did we spend $1 million in research to figure this out? And somebody said, yes, we did. I said, that's $1 million we could have saved, because we knew what the answer was. But, we've got Fairfield Inn Suites, and we've got Town Place Suites, we've got Spring Hill Suites, and I could go on for a few more. Autograph Collection, AC Hotels in Europe, and Moxie Hotels are going to open in Europe. That's a lifestyle hotel, and that's something new in the business the last 10 years, is a lifestyle hotel business.
Describe a lifestyle hotel.
It's hard to explain. For me, when I checked into a hotel, when I was on the road working my way up through life, I'd go to my room after I checked in, do my work, go to bed. And now they check in, they go to the room, they don't even unpack their suitcase, these X and Y generation kids, and they go back to the lobby to connect with their friends, to have a drink, have something to eat, even go back, take their computer in the lobby, sit in the lobby, work on their computer. And when they're in the room, they don't use a desk very often. They sit on their bed and work the computer, or they sit in a chair and work on their computer, or whatever they're doing. We got to have enough broadband to take care of them. We got to have enough plugs in the wall to plug in all our devices, and it's a very different group. They want to be in the bar,
like
and
the lobby today is what happened to bathrooms in the old days. It was just a small thing and small sink, and now they're big deals. It sounds like the lobby is now a place instead of just something.
The lobby is a place, not just a place to check in and check out. It's a place to connect, to meet with your friends, to hang out, have a drink, have something to eat. And they stay down there for 3 or 4 hours, some of them, just doing their thing and having fun and working. And it's a very different atmosphere than it used to be.
Now, is this hitting the Marriott Hotel and Resorts, this whole kind of makeover? Is it going everywhere now?
Oh yeah, it's going everywhere, Steve. We're working hard to make sure that our hotels are being developed to satisfy this younger generation, because pretty soon the X to Y generation, those up to about 40 years of age, are going to be over 50% of our business. And in 10 years, they'll probably be 70–80% of our business. So we've got to figure out a way to capture that market, because it's going to be the market going forward.
Is it hard to say no desks in a room or no baths in the room?
well, we've got bathrooms, and they like the big bathrooms.
But the bathtubs.
The bathtubs. Well, we put bathtubs in some of our rooms with 2 double beds, because we get families, they've got kids, and they need a bathtub. But by and large, we're showers only in all of our king-size bedrooms, and we don't give them a lot of closet space, because they don't unpack their suitcases. They have a place to drop their suitcase, and then they go hook up their computers, and it's a very different customer.
So is this what papers call an edgy hotel now?
Well, we have what we call the Edition hotels, which I don't think I mentioned earlier. We're building 3 of them right now under construction. We just opened the first one in London.
Right.
It's 170 rooms, and it's doing great. Got out of the box really fast. We're opening the Seville Hotel in Miami Beach next, and that'll be about 400 rooms. And then we're going to open the Clock Tower right almost across the street from your office, which will be our New York City Edition hotel, and that'll open in 2015. And these will be edgy hotels. We've partnered up with Ian Schrager, who invented the lifestyle hotel, and we're working with him. And I think one of the reasons that London got off to such a great start was because the restaurant is so busy and the bar is so busy, and everybody wants to come there. Somebody called in my office the other day and wanted to know if they could get a reservation in the Marriott and the Edition Hotel in London in late December, because they couldn't get in.
So you're in the food business.
I said, yeah, we're back in the food business.
So briefly describe, you mentioned younger people. Women are now a huge part of your clientele.
Well, I think women are looking for security above almost everything else, and we have what we call our concierge level floors, which the women prefer because they don't have to go down and have breakfast in the restaurant. They can go into the concierge lounge and have a free breakfast, and they're willing to pay a little more to have these rooms. And the security part of the equation is very, very important for them.
One of the areas you're making a big push in is Africa. You just opened a hotel in Rwanda, but you're moving everywhere. Describe that, and then describe what impact you think the passing of Nelson Mandela is going to have on South Africa and indeed on the continent.
Well, we're just acquiring the largest hotel operator in Africa. They have 110 hotels and about 10,000 rooms, and so we'll close that probably in March, and that will be the largest operator in Africa when that's completed. And we're very bullish on Africa, and it's a different market in terms of it takes a long time to develop a hotel down there. Takes knowing the right people, getting the right connections to get the right construction contracts. And so it moves us ahead very quickly to be able to acquire this company. And I think Nelson Mandela was a tremendous world leader, certainly showed a lot of our leaders today how they should operate, and is going to be very missed. Hopefully he established a foundation in South Africa and for the whole African continent that people will respect and follow in his footsteps, and we're looking for stability and really for the program to continue to move forward.
What made you optimistic about Africa, that finally it was going to be a growth area instead of lagging the rest of the world?
Well, I think the natural resources, the minerals, the oil, all the different kinds of resources that are there that are in Africa, and the fact that the Chinese are coming in and investing heavily in Africa. They seem to have a pretty good knack of where to put their money and where to invest, and so I think Africa's got no place to go but up, and we're excited about the opportunity.
You mentioned the brands you have, starting at the Ritz-Carlton, and how do you, I grew up remembering General Motors and Alfred Sloan saying a car for each, a model for each pocketbook, and then it sort of got mushy and you couldn't tell one from the other. How do you avoid a regression to the mean? How do you make sure each one is distinct and people don't say, well, one's the same as the other?
Well, it's a constant struggle, and we advertise them all separately. But at the bottom of the ad, we list all of the brands, and we say you can participate in the Marriott Rewards program if you stay in any one of these hotels, including the one we're advertising. But we advertise Courtyard. Stay in the Courtyard Hotel. We're the official sponsor with the NFL this year for Courtyard. We run our ads for Courtyard during the games. And, we hook up with various sponsors and programs. And Ritz-Carlton has no tie directly with Marriott in terms of being in the same ad or anything like that. So we really try and present a different picture of each brand and keep it as separately as we can.
In developing people, how do you... somebody starts, he's say an early worker. How do you ensure or make this so they can move from a Courtyard to an edgy place or to Ritz-Carlton and make the transition and know how the nuances of each? How do you convey that?
Training is a very important part of our business. We spend millions of dollars a year on training for our people. And we want to train our people to be cross-trained. In other words, we want a front desk person to be able to go down and dish up the banquet meal for lunch. And if it's late in the day and a couple of people check out and the room needs to be made up and there's no housekeeper available, we want that front office person to be able to go up and help make up that room. Right. So once you learn all these things, then you're qualified to be a manager over a bigger opportunity than you may have had, and you continue to grow and develop. And so it's all about providing opportunity and providing the training that allows them to take advantage of that opportunity. I had a young lady I ran into in our lunchroom the other day, and she had graduated from Harvard Business School. And I said, so what are you doing here? She said, I spent all last week cleaning toilets. And I said, well, that's interesting. Tell me about it. And she said, well, I've been here 4 months. I worked in every operation in the hotel. She said, I've had a better experience in learning how business really works than I did in 2 years previously where I was in school.
Just leadership requires a certain toughness, not in a nasty way, but learning to deal with setbacks. When you look back, what are some of the things you said, what was I thinking, or what did you learn from having to walk in the valley? And because I wrote which I'd give you a copy of, co-authored a book on leadership going back to ancient times, and no matter how smart you are, no matter how good at the game you are, you're going to get hit with curveballs, sometimes from your own mistakes or circumstances or a combination of both. There's no playbook. It's got to come from inside.
That's right. We got hit with a curveball in 1990. We'd been building 100 hotels a year and selling them off to owners and taking back management contracts and franchise contracts on them. And back in 1990, we had a recession. We had the Gulf War. And our buyers went away for these hotels, and we were stuck with about $3 billion worth of debt on our balance sheet, and we should have had no more than $1 billion. And so we said, hey, we got to fix this. So we got the team together, and everybody said, I think I can find some money over here. I think there's some money over here to be found. We found $100 million worth of working capital that we could save. We had to lay off our entire architecture, construction, development department because we stopped building. We stopped some hotels under construction even and let just the frame sit there. And when it was all done and said, over with, we had gained more earnings and more cash flow during the Depression and the recession than we had before, the year before. And it was a team effort, everybody working together to really make it happen. And I think that was the thing. Just engage the team, listen to what they have to say, get their ideas, and move. Don't just sit around and analyze. No paralysis through analysis, but move ahead.
You had a restructuring, a separation in effect.
Yes, we did. We split the company. Back 3 years later, we decided to spin off the operating company into a new company and leave the debt and the ownership of the real estate into another company. Provoked a bondholder suit. We got through that. And so both companies have done extremely well. And the market value of the two companies is up multiples from what it was before.
Talking about suits, Arnie Sorensen. How was it bringing a lawyer and an outsider at the same time?
Well, we brought him in and put him in charge of mergers and acquisitions, and we found out how smart he was and how capable he was, and found out he had a lot of people skills along with everything else, had good values, and so we eventually made him chief financial officer, and then I said, hey, we got to have an operating guy here too, so we gave him our European operations to supervise. So he would spend at least 1 week a month in Europe working with the operations, with the hotels, and the rest of the time he was working as CFO. Then we promoted him to president. He was president for 3 or 4 years, and then when I got to be 80, I said nobody 80 years old I'd be running anything. So I said I'll stay on as executive chairman, and Arnie, you can be the CEO.
And what's David's future? He's running the East Coast now?
David's running everything from Maine to Florida, as far west as Ohio and Pennsylvania, and doing a really good job, and hopefully he's got a bright future with the company.
And how did you bring him up versus the way your father brought you and your brother up? Your father sounded like he's a pretty tough taskmaster.
He was a tough guy, and I learned a lot from him, but it wasn't easy. And I think I've been a lot easier on my children than he was on me, because I knew how I felt when I got the proverbial chewing out on a regular basis. And I have avoided that with my children, and I've tried to encourage them and give them the opportunity to progress and grow as we have with other people in the company.
Terrific. Bill, thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Without reservations.
Thank you very much. It's been fun.
Congratulations on succeeding in a business that is one of the most competitive in the world, and one that everyone thinks they know more about than you do.
Thank you. Thanks, Steve, very
Thank you.
much. Enjoyed it. It's been fun.